Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless if you're here for it. Hit subscribe and let's go.
The cream-colored envelope arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. The kind of invitation my family had always loved. Expensive, exclusive, designed to impress. I opened it at my kitchen counter, still in my work clothes. The message was brief. Robert Thompson Senior Vice President Promotion Celebration. Saturday, October 14th, 7 p.m. The Metropolitan Club. Black tie. Corporate leadership and distinguished guests. And then, handwritten at the bottom in my mother's perfect script. Corporate celebration. Your attendance could be awkward. My phone buzzed almost immediately. My brother Marcus. Got your invitation. Mom thinks you should skip it. My wife is a VP at Goldman Sachs. Dad's new colleagues are that level. You understand. I set the phone down. Looked at the invitation again. Then I opened my laptop and added the event to my calendar without responding. I understood perfectly. My family had been writing me out of their story for 7 years. It started small. Forgotten to mention family dinners, last-minute schedule changes, invitations that arrived after events had passed. Then it became more deliberate. My father, Robert Thompson, had spent 32 years climbing the corporate ladder at Morrison & Hale Financial Services. He'd started as a junior analyst and worked his way up through sheer persistence and political maneuvering. His career was his identity. His title was his worth. My brother Marcus had followed the same path. Wharton MBA, marriage to Jennifer Chin, who became a Goldman Sachs VP at 31. A corner office at a hedge fund, a house in Greenwich. He was everything my father had dreamed of producing. My sister Ashley had married an orthopedic surgeon, lived in a restored Victorian in Boston, and spent her time on charity boards and country club committees. She'd mastered the art of appearing successful. And then there was me, Sarah Thompson. The family disappointment. The one who'd wasted her potential. The one they'd stopped trying to explain at cocktail parties. After graduating from Georgetown with a degree in international relations, I'd shocked everyone by taking a boring government job, instead of pursuing corporate law or finance. My starting salary was $53,000. My father had made that in quarterly bonuses. Government work? My mother had said at my college graduation dinner, her voice dripping with concern. Darling, that's very noble, but is it really using your education? It's what I want to do, I'd replied. What you want, my father had said, cutting his steak with surgical precision, doesn't always align with what's wise. That was 7 years ago. Since then I'd become the family's cautionary tale. The daughter who'd chosen wrong. The one who still rented an apartment. The one who took the metro to work. The one who wore off-the-rack suits and carried a regular handbag instead of the designer items my mother considered essential. At family gatherings I was introduced vaguely. Our daughter Sarah. She works in government. Then they'd quickly change the subject to Marcus's latest deal or Ashley's upcoming charity gala. I'd stopped trying to correct their assumptions about 3 years ago. It was easier to let them believe what they wanted. What they didn't know, what I'd deliberately kept from them, was that my boring government job had evolved considerably. I was now a GS-15 federal contracting officer specializing in classified defense procurement. I held a top-secret/SCI security clearance. I managed contracts worth $287 million annually. My office was in a facility that required biometric security to enter. More significantly, 2 years ago, I'd started a side business as a federal contracting consultant. I helped small businesses navigate the Byzantine world of government contracts. That business had grown to annual revenue of $3.2 million. I employed 8 people. Fortune Small Business had featured us 6 months ago. Last year I'd purchased a property. Not a condo. Not a townhouse. A 4,200 square foot Victorian in Alexandria that had previously been owned by a retired State Department official. The property had historical designation and was classified as federal asset protection due to its previous security modifications. Cost, $2.8 million. Paid in cash. The house had everything my mother had always claimed to value. Original crown molding, a library with built-in shelving, a formal dining room, a garden designed by a landscape architect who'd worked on the Kennedy estate. It was the kind of property that appeared in architectural magazines. I'd never mentioned it to my family. I still gave them my old apartment address when they asked. I'd learned years ago that information was power, and they'd forfeited the right to mine. My father's promotion had been announced in the Wall Street Journal. Morrison and Hale was making him Senior Vice President of Strategic Development. It was the culmination of his entire career. The party would be attended by CEOs, board members, major clients. It was his coronation. Marcus called me Wednesday evening. Sarah, about Saturday. I need to be direct with you. I'm listening. Dad's worked his entire life for this. The guest list it's very high level. Jennifer knows half the attendees from Goldman. They're the kind of people who matter in finance. Okay. Your attendance could raise questions. You understand? These people know each other's families. They know what level everyone operates at. If they ask what you do and you say government bureaucrat making $60,000 a year. I make more than that, I said quietly. Sarah, please. You know what I mean. Reflects on Dad. On all of us. Mom thinks it's better if you sit this one out. Maybe we can do a family dinner next month. Just us. Somewhere casual. I was quiet for a long moment. I'll think about it. Sarah. I said I'll think about it, Marcus. I hung up. Thursday my sister called. Sarah, hi. I heard about the awkwardness with Dad's party. I totally understand if you're upset, but honestly Marcus is right. These corporate events are so stuffy and political. You'd probably be bored to death anyway. Probably. And you know how Dad gets when he's stressed. Having to explain your situation to his colleagues would just add pressure on his big night. We want him to enjoy it, right? Of course. So you're okay skipping it? Mom will be so relieved. She's been worried sick about the seating arrangements. I didn't say I was skipping it. Ashley's tone sharpened. Sarah, don't be difficult. This isn't about you. This is Dad's night. Can you please for once think about someone other than yourself? I always do, I said. That's the problem. I hung up before she could respond. Friday evening my mother called. Sarah, darling. I need to speak with you about tomorrow. I'm listening. Your father and I have discussed this extensively. We think it's best if you don't attend the celebration. It's not personal, sweetheart. It's just that the optics are important. Your father's new position means we'll be socializing with a very specific tier of people. People who understand success. People who've achieved certain standards. And I haven't. Don't put words in my mouth. You've chosen a different path. A simpler path. And that's fine for you. But tomorrow isn't about you. It's about your father's legacy. About the family's reputation in these circles. Surely you can understand that. I looked around my library as she spoke. First edition books on the shelves. A Tiffany lamp my decorator had found at an estate sale. Through the window, my garden was illuminated by carefully placed lighting. I understand perfectly, I said. So you won't come? I didn't say that. Sarah. I'll make my own decision, Mother. I always do. I ended the call. I dressed carefully. A black Carolina Herrera gown I'd purchased for a State Department function last year. Harry Winston earrings. A gift to myself when my company hit 7 figures. My hair professionally styled. Makeup flawless. I looked exactly like I belonged at the Metropolitan Club. Because I did. The venue was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet in the corner. Servers circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The guest list read like a Fortune 500 directory. I arrived at 7:43 p.m. Deliberately late enough that everyone would be settled. My mother saw me first. Her face went through 3 distinct expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, anger, and forced composure. She crossed the room quickly, champagne glass gripped like a weapon. Sarah. What are you doing here? I was invited, I said pleasantly. It said black tie. I wore black tie. We specifically asked you not to come. You suggested I not come. I declined to follow that suggestion. My father appeared at her shoulder, his face darkening. Sarah, this is inappropriate. We had an agreement. We had no agreement. You made demands. I made no promises. Marcus joined them, Jennifer at his side looking uncomfortable. Sarah, Jesus Christ. Can you not make a scene? Just leave quietly. Please. I'm not making a scene, I said calmly. I'm attending my father's promotion party. Which I was invited to. If anyone's making a scene, it's the four of you surrounding me looking angry. Ashley materialized with her husband. This is so typical of you. Always needing to be the center of attention. This is Dad's night. Then perhaps we should let him enjoy it instead of standing here arguing, I suggested. A Morrison and Hale executive approached. Kenneth Walsh, the CEO. Robert. Congratulations again. And this must be your family. My father's jaw tightened. Yes. My son Marcus, his wife Jennifer Chin from Goldman Sachs. My daughter Ashley and her husband Dr. Richard Morrison. And this is, Sarah, my younger daughter. Pleasure, Kenneth said warmly. And what do you do, Sarah? Before I could answer, my mother interjected. Sarah works in government. Very modest position. She's always been more interested in public service than achievement. Kenneth's eyebrows raised slightly. Government work. Fascinating. Which agency? I'd rather not discuss it, I said quietly. Security protocols. Marcus snorted. Security protocols. Sarah, please. What Sarah means, my father said quickly, is that she works in a low-level administrative capacity. Nothing requiring actual security clearance. She likes to make it sound more important than it is. Jennifer looked uncomfortable. Kenneth looked confused. The moment was crystallizing into exactly what my family feared. An awkward explanation of the disappointing daughter. I said nothing. Just smiled politely. Well, Kenneth said diplomatically, all work has value. Robert, shall we discuss the Singapore initiative? They moved away. My family stood in a tight circle around me. You've embarrassed us enough, my father said in a low, furious voice. I want you to leave. Now. No. Sarah, I'm not asking. And I'm not leaving. My mother's face was pale with rage. How dare you? After everything we've done for you. After we paid for Georgetown, after we gave you every opportunity, and you throw it away on some pathetic government job making $50,000 a year? I make significantly more than that, I said quietly. 60, 70, it doesn't matter, my mother hissed. You're still living in that sad little apartment, taking public transportation, shopping at outlet malls. You're still nothing compared to what you could have been. I think you should leave, Marcus said. Before you make this worse. I think I'll stay, I replied. But feel free to enjoy your party. I won't bother you. I walked away. Found a spot near the windows. Accepted a glass of champagne from a passing server. My family huddled together across the room, shooting me dark looks. I could see them strategizing. Damage control. Containment. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my security company. Alert. Unauthorized entry detected at Alexandria property. Multiple individuals. Police notified. Federal response team activated per protocol. I felt my stomach drop. My house. Someone had broken into my house. I was pulling up the security camera feed on my phone when I heard the commotion at the entrance. U.S. Marshal Bradley entered the Metropolitan Club like he owned it. 6 feet tall, federal badge already displayed, 2 additional marshals flanking him. The string quartet stopped playing. Conversations died mid-sentence. I'm looking for Miss Sarah Thompson, he announced, his voice carrying across the room. Every head turned, including my family's. I raised my hand slightly. I'm Sarah Thompson. Marshal Bradley crossed the room directly to me. Ma'am, we need to speak with you immediately. There's been a breach of your federal property. My mother's voice, shrill with confusion. Federal property? What is he talking about? Marshal Bradley didn't look at her. Miss Thompson, your residence in Alexandria has been illegally entered. Due to the property's federal asset designation and your security clearance level, this is now a federal investigation. We have 3 individuals in custody. My father stepped forward. Excuse me, officer, but there must be some mistake. My daughter lives in a small apartment in Arlington. She doesn't own property. Marshal Bradley turned to him. Sir, are you Robert Thompson? Yes, I'm her father. Then you're one of the individuals who entered the property approximately 40 minutes ago. You, your son Marcus Thompson, and your daughter Ashley Morrison. The room went absolutely silent. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. That's impossible, my father said, but his voice was weak. That house belongs to... We were told it was being sold by the estate of a State Department official. The realtor said it was empty. We were just looking at it as a potential investment property. The property, Marshal Bradley said clearly, is owned by Ms. Sarah Thompson. Has been for 18 months. It is designated as federal asset protection due to classified security modifications installed by its previous owner. Breaking and entering a federal asset protection property is a felony. Marcus stepped forward, his face red. This is insane. Sarah doesn't own a $3 million house. She's a low-level government secretary. Ms. Thompson, Marshal Bradley said, still looking only at me, is a GS-15 federal contracting officer with top-secret/SCI clearance. She manages $287 million in annual defense contracts. She also owns a federal contracting consulting firm with annual revenue of $3.2 million. The property in question was purchased 18 months ago for $2.8 million. Cash transaction. My mother actually gasped. Ashley swayed slightly. Kenneth Walsh, the CEO, was staring at me with new interest. Sarah, my father said weakly. This is. You never said. You never asked, I replied quietly. You assumed. There's a difference. Marshal Bradley continued. We've reviewed the security footage. Mr. Thompson, you were recorded forcing entry through the rear door at 7:08 p.m. Your son accessed the study. Your daughter entered the primary bedroom. You spent 17 minutes inside the property before the federal response team arrived. We didn't know, my father said, and for the first time in my life he sounded old. The realtor said, we were told it was an estate sale. I pulled out my phone. Showed Marshal Bradley the security footage. My family crowded around my dining room table going through papers on my desk. Marcus photographing documents. Ashley opening drawers in my bedroom. What were you looking for? I asked quietly. My father couldn't look at me. We thought, after seeing you here tonight dressed like that, we thought maybe you'd gotten involved in something. Borrowed money you couldn't repay. We were worried you were in over your head. We were trying to help. By breaking into what you thought was an empty house? The realtor said it was abandoned, Marcus insisted. That we could view it tonight while the owner was traveling. We were going to make an offer to help you out of whatever financial trouble you were in. What realtor? Marshal Bradley asked. Marcus pulled out his phone. Showed a text conversation. A number neither of them recognized now in hindsight. An obvious scam. They'd been so eager to believe I was failing that they'd walked right into a setup. Someone had been watching them, had seen their interest in the property, had posed as a realtor knowing they'd jump at the chance to discover my financial problems. But it was still breaking and entering. Still a federal crime. The entire Metropolitan Club was watching now. My father's bosses. His colleagues. His new peers. All witnessing his humiliation. Ms. Thompson, Marshal Bradley said, the decision to press charges is yours. Given that the perpetrators are your family members, we can offer some flexibility. However, the federal response was activated. That will be documented regardless. I looked at my family. My father, who'd spent 30 years building a reputation that was crumbling in real time. My mother, whose social standing was everything. Marcus and Jennifer, whose perfectly curated life was suddenly complicated. Ashley, who'd based her entire identity on being better than me. Kenneth Walsh stepped forward. Sarah, may I call you Sarah? I had no idea we were in the presence of such an impressive professional. 15 at your age is remarkable. And a successful consulting firm on top of your federal work? I'd love to discuss how Morrison and Hale might work with you on our government contracts division. Other executives were moving closer now, suddenly interested in the daughter who'd been dismissed minutes ago. My father looked like he might be sick. Marshal Bradley, I said quietly. I won't be pressing charges. They're my family. They made a mistake based on false information. I think the embarrassment here tonight is consequence enough. Relief flooded my father's face. However, I continued, I want it documented that they are never to contact me again without my explicit permission. No unexpected visits. No demands for information. No assumptions about my life. If they can respect those boundaries, we can move past this. Sarah, my mother started, but I held up my hand. Those are my terms. Accept them or I press charges. Choose. My father nodded slowly. Understood. Marshal Bradley made notes. We'll need formal statements from all parties. Mr. Thompson, your family will need to come to the federal building Monday morning at 9 a.m. As the marshals prepared to leave, Kenneth Walsh touched my father's arm. Robert, we should talk privately. Monday morning. My office. My father's new promotion, I realized, was probably about to come with some serious qualifications. The party resumed slowly, but the energy had shifted. I was now the center of attention, the mysterious daughter with the secret success story. Executives approached to introduce themselves, to ask about my consulting firm, to express interest in collaboration. My family stood in a tight cluster near the coat check, looking shell-shocked. I left at 9:30 alone, head high. Monday morning, I received an email from my father's personal account. Subject line, "We need to talk." I deleted it without opening it. Tuesday, Ashley called 17 times. I didn't answer. Wednesday, my mother showed up at my office building. Security wouldn't let her pass the lobby without my authorization. I didn't provide it. Thursday, I received a formal letter from Marcus. An apology. An explanation. A request for reconciliation. I filed it away without responding. Friday, Kenneth Walsh called me personally. Morrison and Hale wanted to contract with my firm for federal procurement consulting. Annual retainer, $840,000. I accepted. The contract paperwork required my father's signature as the SVP who'd be overseeing the relationship. I heard he stared at my company's revenue statements for a full 5 minutes before signing. I received a wedding invitation. Marcus and Jennifer were renewing their vows. 5 years of marriage. A celebration at the plaza. Handwritten at the bottom, "Please come. We'd be honored by your presence. No conditions. No expectations. Just family." I studied the invitation for a long time. Then I RSVP'd yes. But on my terms. I arrived exactly when I wanted. I left when I chose. I spoke to whom I pleased and ignored whom I didn't. My father tried to approach me during cocktail hour. I nodded politely and moved to a different conversation. My mother attempted to introduce me to someone as our daughter who works in government. I corrected her. I'm a federal contracting officer and CEO of Thompson Strategic Consulting. We specialize in defense procurement. The person she'd been talking to was a Pentagon official who'd heard of my firm. We talked for 20 minutes. He handed me his card. My mother walked away. During dinner, Ashley leaned over. Your house was in Architectural Digest last month. The feature on historic Alexandria properties. I didn't know that was yours until I saw your name. There's a lot you don't know about me, I replied. Because you never asked. I'm asking now, she said quietly. If you'll let me. I looked at her for a long moment. Saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine humility. We'll see, I said. After dinner, my father found me on the terrace. Sarah. May I speak with you? You're speaking. I owe you an apology. A real one. Not a letter. Not an explanation. Just, I'm sorry. For 30 years I taught you that worth was measured in titles and salaries and the right zip codes. And then when you didn't follow that path, I assumed you'd failed. I never considered that you might be succeeding in ways I was too blind to see. I waited. You're more successful than I ever was, he continued. At your age I was still entry-level. You own property I couldn't have afforded until I was 50. You have security clearance I'll never qualify for. You built a company from nothing. And I was too proud and too stupid to see it because it didn't look like what I expected success to look like. You're right, I said quietly. You were. Can we start over? Can I get to know the daughter I clearly never understood? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw an old man who'd built his entire identity on corporate achievement and was finally realizing how hollow that foundation had been. Maybe, I said. But on my terms. No more assumptions. No more dismissals. No more deciding who I am without asking me first. Deal. He held out his hand. I shook it. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. I stood in my library, looking at the framed Fortune small business cover on the wall. Government contracting. How one woman built a multi-million-dollar firm while maintaining top security clearance. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. Sunday dinner? Your house this time. I'd like to see what I broke into. Legally this time. I smiled and typed back. 7 p.m. Bring wine. Good wine. My mother had included herself on the text chain. What should I bring? Just yourself, I replied. That's enough. Because here's what I'd learned. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who shows up when you need them, who celebrates your victories, who respects your boundaries. My family was learning. Slowly. Imperfectly. But they were learning. And that was more than I'd had a year ago. The invitation to my father's promotion party had said my attendance could be awkward. They'd been right. It had been awkward. Spectacularly, federally, unforgettably awkward. But it had also been the moment when I stopped letting them write my story. The moment when I took back the power to define my own success. And that was worth every uncomfortable second. I walked to my window, looking out at the garden I'd designed, in the house I'd bought, in the life I'd built while they weren't paying attention. The U.S. Marshal had asked if I wanted to press charges. I'd said no. Because the best revenge isn't punishment. It's living so well that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. They thought I was a failure who needed saving. Turns out I was the one with the power to save, or destroy, them all along. I just chose not to use it. Because that's what real power looks like. The choice to be merciful when you could be vindictive. The strength to build instead of tear down. My father's promotion party had been his big night. The culmination of everything he'd worked for. And I'd shown up anyway despite being told I didn't belong. Because I'd learned something he was only beginning to understand. You don't need anyone's permission to claim your place at the table. Sometimes you just need a U.S. Marshal to remind everyone whose table it really is.